welcome to this episode of the Titan Leader Talk. We have a great guest on our show today, a good friend of Coach Urban Meyer, who's been on before, gave us this connection. Today we have the honor to talk to John Beilein, former head coach of Michigan basketball, also spent some time with the Cleveland Cavaliers and in and out of some different NCAA programs, multiple Big Ten championship wins, Final Four appearances, Sweet 16 appearances. So we're really excited to talk to you, Coach. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
So to go ahead and get started, I love to get started with coaches and really talk about what your leadership style is and getting there, and kind of just to go around your background and how you're talking to us today.
Yeah, I just, I had leaders in my life back in grade school and in junior high and in high school, teachers, coaches that made me just want to coach someday. I wanted to be just like them. They set great examples for me of what leadership should look like. And so I set out to do that. I went to a small Jesuit school called Wheeling Jesuit in Wheeling, West Virginia, with the whole idea, I just want to be a history teacher. And I want to coach football, basketball, baseball in high school, and that was it. And somehow it led me to Michigan, the NBA, a whole bunch of things, but that's basically how it got to that point. I've had nine different things that went back to that high school, Newfane High School. Then I coached at Erie Community College, a junior college, went to an NAI program called Nazareth College, went to Division II at Lemoyne College for 9 years, Canisius First Division I program for 5, Richmond for 5, West Virginia for 5, and Michigan for 12. And the Cavaliers for almost a full season. And it is all along that way, that journey mostly through a lot of mistakes, learned a lot, I think, about leadership, and glad I can share some of those ideas with you guys today.
Thank you, Coach. And to kind of get started, and we spoke a little bit to this earlier, there's kind of a lot happening in the world with COVID and everything else happening and the hard times that you've had to deal with. Can you speak to how you handle that as a leader?
I grew up it's a great point, Madison. I grew up on a farm and with 8 brothers and sisters. And we, while my dad did not work, he worked in a paper mill, but that was his hobby. But what I learned about during that time was pruning trees. That, you'd go to a peach tree and there's 100 peaches on one branch, or a couple branches, and you would take off you'd take off, if there was 100, you'd take off 90 of them. And just so that the peaches could grow to be bigger and stronger, or you'd cut back the branches on a tree. I think I heard the other day in a vineyard that every year the farmer of the branches so that it can really grow and be stronger. And so I do it with my hydrangeas here, and I actually take pictures of them when I get them pruned, and then I take pictures of ones I don't prune every year and show them to my team. And after a loss, after some tough times, after an injury, I said, this is really a blessing, that the only way people can really grow is by embracing getting pruned, embracing adversity, and watch yourself grow from it. Those who have had life is easy, watch out, because life is going to bring challenges. Your journey, I don't care how blessed you are in the beginning, you're going to go through a journey that you're going to have adversity. And how you handle that is everything. But if you put it through a different lens, that I do not let it happen again. Many times we just place blame on adversity. Now it's what can I do now to learn from this and make change going forward. And I think we're in that point right now in our country. We got to stop placing blame and do something, right, to continue to make this an incredible nation that has been built on great values. Those values cannot slip right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's a really great story and for any athlete to kind of take away from. And when you're looking at athletes, what are some of the qualities or characteristics that you look for in your athletes that so that way they can handle adversity and you can help them and grow
Yeah.
them?
When you're usually recruiting a kid, one of the many things we look at was, can you lose with him? I know that sounds crazy, but can you lose with him? Is he the type of young man or woman who, when they lose, they grow, they get it, and they know that there's hard work involved. So uh, every time in our season, I don't think it's going to answer your question, Madison, but I'm just going to say that our season, when I was a younger coach, every time that we would lose, I wouldn't sleep, and when we won, I thought I had it all figured out. As it got longer at Michigan and West Virginia, especially at those higher levels, I started, and videotape was everywhere. I started sleeping better after losses because the answers were there. Where handling prosperity is so much further, is so much handling adversity, and you can really grow from it. So that was something I really tried to focus on going forward, and we really looked for young men that would see that now, or you can teach it to them, and I think everybody, it can be taught. When you see I, I remember there was a game in 2013 where we were ahead by Wisconsin by 3 points with 2 seconds to go. Tim Hardaway hit a huge 3-point shot. We're up by 2.2, and we're up by three. We're up by 3. We're going to win this game. We do not have a great timeout. We're talking more about giving a foul than actually what they might be running. They throw in, Ben Bruss throws in a half-court shot. They tie it. They beat us in overtime. I thought I was the worst coach in the world. It was we this team, and couldn't be lower. Well, we practiced it and practiced it after that. Lo and behold, a Sweet 16 game against Kansas, a Final Four game against Syracuse, we had the same play, similar plays. We guarded it perfectly, won both games. So would we have rather had that Ben Bruss shot go off the backboard, not go in? We win, and we have this false sense that we got things covered, but now we might lose to Kansas or we might lose to Syracuse. That would have been harder to take. So we spun that adversity into something really good, and it paid off.
I'm sure a lot of that speaks to your team culture, and you've coached at Michigan for many years and in the college level for many years. How did you start to build that team culture?
Oh, I think that it's so important that you have that, and I think it's changed a lot. 45 straight years. I've never been an assistant coach. 45 straight years, a head coach through all those levels. And you used to just go out there, and your presence was the culture. And what you said and what you did every day through your actions was the culture. And people stayed around long enough to figure that out. People didn't go pro early, or people didn't transfer as much. There was all these. It was just a different day. And now we felt at Michigan that after so many years, it wasn't enough just to live it. It wasn't that you say values are caught, not taught. And now it's flipped. Values have to be taught because there's so many distractions of trying getting people on focus. So we did that. We came up with core values, 5 core values: passion, appreciation, integrity, and diligence. We added accountability later on. And we talked about them every day in film and practice, doing our best. We talked about being champions. We talked about it every day. And just, I think that's really important that we don't take any of that for granted. A lot of young athletes will think, oh, that's just corny. You showing me these plants getting pruned and growing, that's just corny. That is real life. And those that get it really prosper because of it. And so that's it. I mean, I think today you have to teach culture, and not only teach it, you have to prioritize it and make it a ritual. And you're teaching culture. There's a thing called, Madison, a tone at the top. I learned that from Dave Brandon, former CEO of Domino's and athletic director Michigan, and it was myself every day. When I walked into the office, my staff was one of my teams. How I presented myself, if I'm in a grumpy mood, it's going to change the day, right? And as a leader, and if you're a young athlete, you're a captain, you're a junior, you're a senior, you're not on board that day, right? You got to pivot. You have to pivot to a new direction and have a positive influence that day. And there's that tone at the top, whether you're a senior member of a team or your staff, you have to implement that and make sure. Sometimes you might have to fake it till you make it, but you have to do that. Otherwise, the whole day could become a waste.
So you spoke a little bit to your staff, and you said you've only ever really been a head coach for 45 years. How do you develop your assistant coaches?
I think that's a tone at the top again. That you spend so much more time with them, that can be caught. Like we have this thing about integrity, where we think that may be the most important core value of anything. You take our you paid, well, you can have a lot of passion, but if you're not telling the truth, or you're fudging the truth, or you might be the best teammate ever, but if they can't trust what you say or what you do, all that goes away. There's a Shakespearean quote that goes like this: some men are born great, some men achieve greatness, and some men have greatness thrust upon them. They just have all these great riches, but no legacy is greater than your honesty. And that is so important, that you look at people who have incredible careers and integrity, right? It's amazing when you can go to sleep at night and not have to think about, well, what did I say to them? What did I say to them? If you just tell the truth, you go to your coach, and you messed up, go tell them the truth. And it's a whole different, tell your teammates the truth, right? And coaches need to do the same thing. There's three things I think that I learned from another leader, the president of the St. Louis Cardinals, John Beilein. There's three real important elements right now to leadership. One is transparency. People are going to find out that they're going to find out no matter what. Today's world, you can. Another would be empathy, that you have to understand each other on your team. People don't fight, people don't play, or soldiers don't go out and fight for their country. They fight for the guys next to them. And that's where you have to have empathy for your teammates, empathy for your players, empathy for your coaches. And then the last place is vulnerability, is being ready when you make a mistake. I goofed, or the player making the mistake, not pointing fingers at the ref, not pointing fingers, accept it and grow from it. It's so huge.
When you talk about developing leaders and selecting leaders on your team, what did that process look like for you?
We didn't do a big job of selecting that. We watched it evolve. We would have the players vote for a captain, and the captain wasn't always the leader. There might have been a younger player that it was natural to him because he was a freshman or sophomore. They didn't know him well enough in October to vote him captain, but he was leading the team. What we would do as a coach is we'd sort of let them guide us. So if it came to we had the same amount of votes, the coaches would vote, but we wouldn't use the coaches' votes unless we felt it was a decision maker. And because you got to trust your coaches know as well. But most times the coaches didn't have to vote, but sometimes there might be 4 or 5 guys, and we'd say, okay, these are our captains, but these guys are also leaders. So, but pretty much it evolved by itself. And some people were leaders without saying very much. They would pivot. Trey Burke was player of the year in college basketball from Columbus, Ohio. And 2 or 3 times a game, he would pivot out of this very quiet, stern look and tell somebody to play better defense. And those are like important things, where Tim Hardaway was really vocal all the time, and he didn't need to pivot. That was his personality. It was good for leadership. Karis LeVert was very much, another Columbus guy, was very, very much quiet, but when he said everybody talks, so everybody can do these little pivots. You don't have to be the great vocal leader, but you can still lead by when you talk a little bit and your actions.
When you recruit young athletes, is there anything particular that you like to pick from?
Yeah, I mean, when we would go to AAU tournaments, that's where a lot of men's basketball recruits. I would spend as much time looking at the huddle, look at their reaction to their coaches, look at their reactions when they're not playing, and are they cheering for the other guys, or are they talking to the fans, or they're way behind? What's their like? We would give. So in basketball, there's the 3-star, 4-star, 5-star guys. If we saw a guy who was a 3-star, but he was an incredible teammate, he immediately became a 4-star for us, and a 4-star became a 5-star. They don't take that into consideration when they rate players, and it's a difference maker. I'm sure that, Madison, you said you're a rower, right? You have one person that's I read Boys in the Boat. I know how important this is. And you end up having one person out of sync, it can change everything. So we were really looking for who could fit in, who was the one that would come into our program and gets it, that this is a team thing. Maybe take a role. Spike Albrecht was a great example. Was probably a 2-star recruit, but a great teammate. So we made him a 3-star, and he came into backup Trey Burke, and he scored 17 points in the national championship game as a backup, and he's famous. But he knew he was only going to play 10 minutes a game, but he fit. Yeah, I think when you build a team for coaches, Rudy Tomjanovich said this to me many years ago, great Michigan player and Hall of Famer now. You don't amass talent, you build a team. And we did that. We weren't just trying to find the 13 best guys. We were trying to find the 13 guys that fit the role that we wanted. And it is amazing what could happen then, how this team could become so good when they all had their different roles, and they were proud of their roles.
A little bit more to that, building the team piece, because I think, and even talking to like Coach Urban Meyer, he speaks to that a lot too, putting the right people in the right place, doing your job, those sorts of things. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, I think that is so important that people look at that, and it's everything. I mean, from the day one, it's got to be Bo Schembechler, he's an Ohio guy, great Michigan coach. He got a great speech that all coaches should listen to. It's called The Team, the Team, the Team. And it is all about, there is nothing more important than the team. And that you see the NBA teams, the NBA or the college teams, the NFL, those teams, right? The ones that really fit together. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes we're lucky. West Virginia, we came in. There was really just, they've been 1 in 15 in the Big East. They had a lot of uncertainty, and we happened onto 5 guys that ended up going to the Elite Eight. Kevin Pittsnagel, my son Patrick, Mike Gansey, Dior Fisher, Mike. We just happened on J.D. Collins. We happened on these. They just came in, but that was very lucky. What we did not, as we get to Michigan, we realized it. For example, when we would offer a scholarship only to someone if they visited campus. They had to come on campus. We wanted to meet them, talk with them. We're usually one of the last ones to offer scholarships because we didn't. This is a heck of an award and a scholarship to Michigan, Ohio State, any place, just to get to know them. And we would decide, like they would. We were evaluating them. What did they fit this chemistry we wanted with this team? And if they did, if they fit that, then we would offer them. We wouldn't invite them to campus and not offer them, or we would tell them ahead of time, we're not going to offer you a scholarship, but I may see you in January, and I mean, because you're too young, and I might really like you because you came that day. At least I know you, so I feel I can offer you. I think it's very dangerous. So many coaches offer scholarships without even really knowing the person, and that's why. And also, the student athlete does not know the coach. And that's why we have so many transfers. And we had transfers too. But at the same time, we tried to do our best to really know each other so that we could put these together.
What are some of the leadership qualities that you look for in any athlete, whether they're going to be your team leader or they're just going to be on your team? What are you looking for?
I think the you can tell pretty quickly whether you're evaluating him or once you have him on the team, you're going to be able to see whether, first of all, if he has integrity, and he'll have immediate respect. And I'm talking about integrity. An athlete may not lie, cheat or steal, but he may not touch every line in a suicide drill. Or, they're supposed to go to bed at 11 o'clock, but he's going to bed at 11:30. That's not integrity. And the rest of the team will see the fake in this thing. That tone at the top of your team, if your team is really going to be good, that they have to, you got the leadership of a college team, a pro team, or whatever, sets that example that, no, this is how we do it. And they're not afraid to speak up to their teammates and say, you know what, you're better than how you're performing, because I think, you're not getting enough sleep, or you're in a toxic relationship with some friends. You need to change that. That's hard to do. Every student athlete, it's hard to go. But again, if you build a relationship with your teammates, you take the freshmen in and you just don't yell at them. You become friends. You get to know them. They become brothers or sisters to you. You're more apt to be able to go to someone and lead, and they're more apt. And then you start yelling at them in the locker room. That's not going to work. So the relationships have to come first.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points. I know for rowing, we always talked about everyone is either positive to the team culture or negative to the team culture. And as team leaders, we needed to kind of step up and make sure that everyone was positive. And if you were negative, you're going to have that conversation to have that shift. And so, like, my next question is, as a coach, what did you expect from your team leaders as far as like the relationship they had with you, the relationship they had with their teammates? Because a lot of coaches always are kind of on this balance of what that relationship looks like.
Yeah, I think that you want to have there's got to be a great trust between the coach and the players, and that they're not afraid to come to you if you see things are going sideways, and the coach may be part of that he may be able to be helpful. I've had players come to me and say, Coach, we talked about being positive all the time. You're not being positive enough. And then I tried to self-correct, and vice versa. So there's got to be dialogue there. And again, between a coach and a player, that relationship takes years sometimes to happen, or sometimes it's immediate. It's immediate that freshman automatically is there. I think anytime you have the dynamic of a great high school player going to college, there's a new dynamic they have to understand. I'm with a lot of great high school players now, and we're on the same. And then you go to the pros, I'm with a lot, and that dynamic changes. So everybody's got to be willing to listen. And, some people will know more than others experience, but it doesn't mean they know it all. And that's where that dialogue comes in. I think that every good coach, every good player really wants to get better. And one of the easiest ways to get better is listening to others, not a monologue. There's dialogue, but they do listen, and they're receptive, and they're willing to be vulnerable if they feel they can do a better job and listen to others.
We talk a lot about building systems and having processes on the teams that are just kind of always standardly there. Did you ever have a system for developing your team leaders and developing your players?
Yeah. What we did in the summer all the time was it's almost impossible to do in the NBA, because when you're out of the season, you're out of the season. But in college, in the summer, we would talk about non-basketball things. But one of the biggest things is getting to know each other, finding out where people were on their spectrum. Everybody will have a different sense of values. they're all okay. And you have to understand, man, now I understand, when you understand your teammates, how they think, where they come from, what their family's like, you're more, uh, it'll be easier for you to talk with them and have a relationship with them and encourage them, hold them accountable. So we do it all summer. And then once the year would start, uh, pretty much we watch film virtually every day, try to, as much as we can during those film sessions, try to incorporate something about leadership, something about culture within those film sessions, talk, right? And or the post game talk, bringing up where parts of our culture were seen in that game. And it's not like this rigid plan. We let it flow. But then pretty soon, we're not talking about it. The team's talking about it. And when you get a player-driven team, that's when you really can be good.
Can you speak a little bit more to a player-driven team?
Well, I'll tell you about something that happened to us in 2017. Is that we were on the bubble. We were going to the we had to beat Illinois in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and it was a very windy day. We're all on a charter flight, ready to go, and our plane virtually did not take off. It virtually it didn't crash, but it went 400 feet through the mud, into a ditch. We had to go down the slide. We had a game the next day at 12 o'clock, and we weren't going to fly again that day. We all could have died when they did when they came with and found out what the issue was. We're so lucky that everyone lived. One player had stitches on his leg, and that was it. And at any rate, the next day, we met with the team, and we ended up saying, listen, you don't have to play in this tournament. We're on the bubble. I don't know if we're going to make it or not, but nothing's important right now. If you don't want to get back in a plane, we understand. But if we are going to play, the game's at 12. We got to get up at 5:30 in the morning. We got to go play this game. And if we win, we win. We lose, we lose. But right now, it's more important what you feel. So I left it at that. They talked. Next morning, 5:30 a.m., they're all on the bus. Long story short, because we got to fly from Ann Arbor to D.C., get in traffic, get here late, play Illinois, won convincingly. Ended up winning the tournament. Madison, I did very little after that. I mean, we didn't even have time to put stuff on the board. And every guy just took this. The team became this incredible group of men that really held each other accountable. They played together. The ball popped. Nothing cared but the team after what they went through. From that day on, I believe, and I may be accurate on this, for the next 3 years, Michigan was 19-4 in win or go home games. So the Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament, they were 19-4 when it was win or go home, because the coach wasn't calling. Coach sort of just set things up. It was player driven, and many things have probably changed my coaching philosophy. But I saw in those moments how important it was to have the right people on the bus, but also what a team can do when it's player driven.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful note for us to wrap things up on. Is there any final thoughts that you have to any of these coaches and athletes that are listening to us today?
Yeah, I just think embracing adversity, embracing another thing at Michigan, embracing sudden change. That was Bo Schembechler's. Just things are going to happen in life, and you got to look at that as sudden change, as tragic as they may be, and see that we can still survive, and we're going to be better because of it. And so I think it's going to happen, whether it's a sprained ankle, it's a plane crash, it's foul trouble, it's somebody losing a relative, and somehow that's going to happen in life. None of us are going to be insulated from that. And that journey may be one of the most important things happen to you, because when you get on the other side of it, everybody's better. So life is a journey in every way. Embrace the bumps, just like everything else, and watch what happens to you. Some great things are in store.
Thank you so much for sharing, Coach, and thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. This was a great Titan Leader Talk. Thank you for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, Madison.
Thanks. Have a good one. Everyone, be sure to check out the Titan Leader app, and thank you for joining us in the Titan Leader Talks.